If a little green is good, more is even better. Now, back to Green is Good with John Shigarian and Mike Brady.
Welcome back to Green is Good, and we're so thrilled and honored to have Neg Norton on with us today. He's the president of the Local Search Association, which is leading the best local search marketers to deliver cutting-edge solutions with regards to digital, print, mobile, and social media, which helps local businesses succeed. Welcome to Green is Good, Neg Norton.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Hey, you know, Neg, all of our guests are just such wonderful people with fascinating journeys that got them to where they are today, and you're just like all our other wonderful guests. And I'd love you to share with our listeners, before we get going, to talk specifically about all the great things you're doing and your brands are doing, to share your journey. How did you get to be the president of the Local Search Association, and how did that journey go?
Sure. Well, it's interesting. I grew up in Albany, New York, and used to caddy at a country club where the guy who ran the directory department for New York Telephone used to play. So I got to know him a bit and caddy for him. And so when I graduated from Penn State, he hired me into the management trainee program at New York Telephone Directory. And he liked me and had the opportunity to move me around a bit. So I worked in the different capacities in the business, from sales and marketing and production and finance and business development. So I really had a pretty well-rounded background, in the business. And one of the jobs I had the opportunity to do was a manager program called Marketing the Medium, which was a really big national program that was designed to help national advertisers really understand the value from Yellow Pages advertising. And so I got a chance to work with the publishers across the country, and that program was actually housed within the Yellow Pages Publishers Association, which is the predecessor organization to the Local Search Association. And so I got a chance to become familiar with the association, and they became familiar with me, and they had a search for a president about 8 years ago, and hired me. So I've been here about 8 years, and really enjoying it.
No kidding. So let's just be clear, though. There's two different properties we're going to talk about today. Your wonderful property that Mike and I are on right now called localsearchinsider.org, and I want you to explain what that does. And then also another great online property called www.yellowpagesoptout.com. Can you just share a little bit about the two hats you wear there and what they both do?
Sure. Yeah, so the localsearchinsider.org site is our blog, and this is a very, very fast-moving space, and our members are into a lot of different products and services. Obviously, they're very much involved in print Yellow Pages, but also in different Internet products like Internet Yellow Pages. They all have relationships with search engines like Google and Bing. They do online video. They build websites for small businesses. They're into a number of different things. And so the space is changing so rapidly, and I think people are looking for insights about how the space is changing and what different companies are doing to be successful. So we blog about that stuff pretty regularly, and I think that's a nice way to keep our members up to speed on different things.
Gotcha.
A lot of that content is also put out on our Twitter feed, and a lot of people can follow us on Twitter at Local Search Association. The other site that you mentioned, which is www.yellowpagesoptout.com, is really our site that's all about consumer choice. And, as the market is fragmented and people can get, business information in a lot of different places today, some prefer to get it, through search engines and other devices. We give consumers the ability to stop getting phone books to their home through one very simple and easy process. You go to yellowpagesoptout.com. You simply put in your zip code, and then you're presented with a number of different selections in terms of the directories that are delivered into your zip code, and you can easily opt out of all or one of them in a couple of mouse clicks.
Wow.
And so that's really, one of our major programs, around consumer choice, around source reduction, and it's just the right thing to do. If people don't want phone books and they're just going to recycle them, why bother sending them to that consumer in the first place? So it's one of our big programs, and it's working great.
Well, that's fascinating. So the name of our show is Green is Good, and you're doing great things, not just good things. I want to talk a little bit now about the integration, the convergence of what you're doing, and the incentivization of the local publishers and members that you represent, your constituents, and incorporating sustainability practices into their business life. Can you explain how you manage that whole process and how you message that to them?
Well, first of all, I think our publishers don't want to deliver phone books to people who don't want them.
Right.
And so they're trying very, very hard to get directories into the hands of those consumers who do want them, and and not into the hands of people who don't want them. So, in fact, we've got some companies are even incentivizing their employees to really get it right. To make sure that they don't put out too many directories, they get just enough out there to make sure that those are getting into the hands of the people that want them. So,
right.
We're very much motivated to do that. Delivering phone books to people who don't want them is just it's an irritant to the consumer.
Right.
And it's just expensive for us, and it doesn't create any value for our advertisers. So we think it's just the right thing to do.
Okay, and it is. So on its face, it seems like it's counterintuitive, though, that it's going to hurt your ability to sell advertising. But talk about the backside of that.
Well, we're not a circulation-based media, so we're not like newspapers and magazines that make money on circulation. And so the way that we create value for our clients is when somebody goes into the phone book. Most people that go into the phone book already have a need in mind. They're
Right.
looking for a place to make the purchase decision. And so when they use the Yellow Pages, they look at the ad and they pick up the phone and call that merchant. That's how we create value for that advertiser, and we have a number of different ways where we can prove that value.
Right.
But for us to deliver phone books that just simply don't get used doesn't help our advertisers at all, and simply drives up our own cost. So
it makes sense.
So we're just trying to get it right.
I'm looking at your great sites here on my iPad. Mike's looking at your great sites on his laptop while we do this show with you. Talk a little bit about the value of a paper product. The tangibility of a good old paper product in the iPad age.
Well, it's a great question, and it's certainly not a sexy product like an iPad is, but it's still very, very effective. Most people keep the phone book in a very handy place. A lot of people keep it in the kitchen drawer.
Sure.
And so when they have a need for a product or service, if they don't want to fire up the computer, they simply go to the phone book, go to the category that meets their particular need. And there you see, 5 to a half a dozen, 10 different businesses, local businesses that offer that product or service. You can easily scan the ads and size up those companies that offer that different products and services. And within a couple of minutes, be smart enough to have a reasonable conversation with a merchant about buying that product or service. So it may not be particularly sexy,
right.
but I think it's a very, very effective product. And our usage studies indicate that in spite of all of the fragmentation that's occurring in the local media market and all the different places,
sure,
where people can get business phone numbers, whether it's Google or even social media sites now,
sure,
the print Yellow Pages is still used by almost 3 out of 4 adults
wow.
in 2010.
Wow.
And it was used some 11 billion times. So it
wow.
Still works very, very well, and because of that, the advertisers continue to support it with advertising, and they get a good return on investment.
You're in this fascinating vortex that you get to bridge both the analog and the digital worlds and sort of bring them both together for success for your client base. What does, to you, Neg, what does sustainability mean? How do you define sustainability, and what's your vision for economic and environmental sustainability with regards to the business ventures and the entities that you represent?
Well, first of all, as I mentioned earlier, the market is fragmenting quite a bit, and so our companies are, in addition to publishing print directories, they also have relationships with lots of different companies, so they can go to that local merchant, that plumber, and and offer them leads from a wide variety of sources. And so that plumber, for example, can continue to focus on what they do best, which is plumbing services, and leave the local marketing decisions to an organization that is much more expert about it. But with respect to the sustainability practices for our print directories, I think they fall into a couple of different categories. Certainly source reduction, and our yellowpagesopt.out.com site is a major commitment to consumer choice that we've embarked on. The publishers are really doing a great job in terms of offering press releases in advance of when their directories are delivered, so consumers can have the opportunity to opt out prior to delivery. They're putting the URL on the cover of their directories. They're reducing the trim size. Many companies have gone from 9 by 11 directories to 7 by 9 directories.
Right.
Many companies have, in fact, made the residential white pages opt-in. So there's been a big source reduction in terms of residential white pages. And all of that has resulted in some 35% less paper in the market today than there was back in 2007. So certainly source reduction is a big aspect of that. Our companies are doing a real nice job in terms of using very eco-friendly based production processes. They use all soy-based inks,
wow,
which pose no threat to the groundwater. As you know, printing and paper suppliers use renewable energy systems for their operations. In terms of recovery, there's a number of different recycling programs that they get involved in their local markets involving schools and community organizations. And then the funniest thing, from my perspective anyways, is the upcycling that occurs in our business. And recycled directories obviously are used to make new directories, which is one of the major component pieces of new directories. But there's a secondary market that's used for the darndest things like insulation and egg cartons and animal bedding, and there's all sorts of crazy products and services that are made from recycled phone books. So I think our sustainability practices cover a number of different areas, and I think the industry is really doing a nice job in all of those facets.
It sounds like it. Can you share some specific examples of new paradigms or new partnerships that have been forged between your member companies and some environmental groups also?
Yeah, sure. One in particular that comes to mind is a relationship we have with Conservation Minnesota up in Minnesota. It's called Don't Trash the Phone Book. And, one of the goals of that program is to really protect the environment, by providing phone books only to people who want them, like we talked about before, but also giving them, community information about where to recycle their products and so forth. And so they can go to that site. They can manage their deliveries. They can access local recycling information. They can get information in general on what Conservation Minnesota is all about and their overall stewardship efforts. So that's been a very successful program. And another one that we're involved with is called Recycle Match. And Recycle Match, I think the best way to explain that is it's really like the eBay of recycling. And so if you're a publisher and you have some unused phone books, you can basically post what you've got to offer on the site, and through an auction process, people can actually bid on those phone books, again, for that secondary market that I talked about. And that saves phone books from going into landfills and creates some economic value for the publisher and economic value for the buyer as well. So those are a couple of examples of programs that are working quite nicely for us.
And as you explained earlier, with regards to source reduction, soy-based inks, and things of that such, the production efforts have changed over the years with regards to production of the Yellow Pages. Are there any other things that that they've done besides the soy-based ink and maybe making them smaller? Are there any other glaring and great examples of sustainability in the production side of it?
Yeah, I think the other thing that I would add there is that they've got much more efficient pagination systems, so there's less waste, which results in less paper. They've really invested quite a bit of money in much more efficient pagination systems, how the actual page of the directory is laid out, and the more efficient they do that, obviously the less paper they use. So I think that's been the other leg of that production process that's produced some good results.
It seems as though and for those of you who just joined us, I want to just share that we've got Neg Norton on the phone with us right now, and Neg is the president of the local search association, and he's doing great things. And you can look at his two websites that we've been talking about earlier today: localsearchinsider.org and yellowpagesoptout.com. Neg, it seems as though your organization has embraced sustainability. Can you explain, the beginnings of that process and how long it took to really embrace the green and sustainability revolution, and what your association now does with regards to your sustainability committee? How long ago was it formed, and what does it look like, and how does it operate?
Well, I think we've been very good environmental stewards for quite some time. I think it's probably getting more notice these days because of the green movement, because of the, consumers have the ability to, stop getting media, whether it's phone books or direct mail or telemarketing calls. The consumer is in control of this. And there's just more options for consumers these days to get local business information. So I think it's something that we've been doing quite a bit of work on all the way around for quite some years, and probably just getting more notice now because the topic is so much more in the forefront than it was before. But I think, having said that, I think it's fair to say that our members have even increased their efforts in that regard. Certainly, the YellowPagesOptOut.com site is a great example of that. And the promotion that they're doing around that to make that consumer choice noticeable is an example of a more sort of recent enhanced effort. So I think we've been doing the right things for a long time, but I think the topic is just much more germane to people now, and probably getting more attention for that reason.
And how big is the committee? How many members do you have on the committee?
Well, it consists of all of the major publishers. Our board member companies comprise probably 90% of the market in terms of industry revenues.
Wow.
So we've got all the major players. We've got our paper suppliers on the committee as well. So, I think we've got all the right players there to make the decisions that need to be made. And we've got a lot of very effective committees that we work together with at the association, and this one's off to a good start as well.
Obviously you're doing great things, and obviously you've had a lot of success along the way. But as we've learned, and Mike and I have learned with all of our great guests in the last 2.5 years, that this is a process. Can you share the journey a little bit, Neg, in terms of some of the greatest challenges that you faced along the way, and also some of the great opportunities that lay in front of you with regards to sustainability?
Yeah, I think one of the challenges that we've faced, to be honest with you, is getting our members comfortable with the opt-out process, and that was a bit of an unknown, I think, for many of our publishers. Letting people opt out of phone books, there's a bit of uncertainty there. There wasn't an awful lot of experience anywhere across the globe in terms of what the opt-out rates would be. So I think it took us a while to get our members comfortable with the opt-out process, and now that we've gotten it started, I think they fully realize that was just the right thing to do. There's some 500,000 directories that have come out of the market in the last couple of months just through our site alone.
Wow!
And again, these are people that prefer not to get as many phone books as they do, or simply prefer to get information from the internet or from their cell phone. So so we think that's probably one of the most recent examples of where we've had to work to get our members comfortable with that. But now that they're there, they're very comfortable promoting it. As I said, they're doing press releases prior to delivery. They've all promoting the site on the cover of their books, and that's just. It's just a great step.
That is good. And to talk a little bit about, tangible results. When you look back now on what you've accomplished historically, what are the tangible results that you're the most proud of, and accomplishments that you want our listeners to really understand that green is not, there's so many legacy fallacies with regards to sustainability and green that we're always trying to get our listenership and to overcome with regards to green is expensive, green doesn't make sense, green negatively affects your bottom line. Talk about the tangible results and accomplishments that you've accomplished and your partners and your constituents have accomplished, and why being green is really good.
Well, I think it's just the right thing to do. I think we've, like I said before, we've got some 500,000 directories have come out of the market through our efforts, and that's just pure cost reduction for our publishers. We've reduced our amount of paper in the market by some 35% over the last 5 years. That's probably going to go to 50% in another year and a half or so.
Wow.
We've increased our recycling rates from 21% in 2009 up to 37% in 2010. And that's the result of, community by community, town by town, hard work from publishers with, different civic organizations and schools and religious organizations and community leaders. So look, these companies are, really part of the fabric in all those local towns across the country. We win as they win. And so I think a lot of the recycling efforts have enhanced that community feeling that we've had. We're a big part of that community in terms of our own employment. We employ tens of thousands of people across the country with some $2 billion in annual payroll. So we're a big part of those local communities. We're a big part of helping people buy local, helping those local businesses be successful and stay in business and generate tax dollars for those local communities, which has a wide array of benefits in those local communities. So that makes us feel good, where we can support those local towns. We help businesses grow. As you know, small business is the engine of our economy, and we're all about helping small businesses be successful. So this is really one of those win all the way around scenarios.
And obviously, as you shared with our listeners earlier, 11 billion times a year, last year, that speaks for itself. The numbers are, don't lie, and that's a huge success. Neg, we're down to the last 2 minutes or so, and typically what we want is there's a lot of young people, not only here in the United States, but around the world that listen to our show, college students, high school students, etc., and we get emails all the time. Share a little bit about some pearls of wisdom for the next people coming behind us that want to be the next Neg Norton. What are some pearls of wisdom with regards to becoming the next guy in your position?
That's a great question. I think for me, the one thing that I've always tried to do is to do the right thing, regardless of the consequences to me personally. I think if you are able to, operate in the most ethical way and make the right call, even though it may not be the best thing for you personally at the time, if it's the right thing to do for the organization that you're working for, I think people start to take notice about that. So. And that takes some managerial courage sometimes. It's hard to do, but I think that's been one of the things that has really helped me over the years is just to continue to do the right thing. For people that are thinking about our space in the future, what's really kind of fun about it is that I tell you, if you're in our business and you're calling on a plumber and a lawyer and a landscaper, you get to learn a lot of different things about a lot of different types of businesses. And our space is changing so fast. If you really like media and you like helping small businesses grow, which was really one of the main reasons that I got involved in Yellow Pages, it's such a great feeling to help small businesses grow. That's going to be something that's important in the future as well. Is helping these small businesses navigate that complexity and helping them win in the marketplace and giving them the advice and counsel that they need to be successful. So I think it's a great way to learn. I think it's a great way to grow personally, and I think that the space is changing a lot, but it's changing for all the right reasons.
Neg, we're out of time today, but Mike and I and our listeners are so appreciative for you taking time to join us today on Green is Good. For our listeners out there that want to see more of Neg's great work, please go to www.localsearchinsider.org or www.yellowpagesoptout.com. Neg Norton, you are a sustainability search marketing leader and truly living proof that green is good.
Thanks, guys.
This program will be available for downloading in a couple of days from our station's website, keyword podcast. Thanks for listening, and join us again next week at the same time for another edition of Green is Good.